Well, joining me now with his take on the markets moving activity at midday is Kyle Burgess from Nedbank Private Wealth. Hi, Kyle. Good to chat to you once again. And as you heard there, big things happening in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely right. We see markets reacting quite positively there. So I think the new Prime Minister, or I say new Prime Minister, she's currently the Prime Minister, initiated a snap election, which they've got an overwhelming majority in Parliament. And again, I think that's why, you are seeing markets react so positively because, again, she's not an unknown entity, been involved in the Japanese politics scene since the very early 90s. I think has sort of generally quite conservative views from what I can make out. Was mentored by Shinzo Abe, or the late Shinzo Abe. And again, you are seeing markets reacting positively given the fact that they've got such a strong, that supermajority where they are not going to be held back, or the idea is that they won't be held back from implementing policy changes, essentially driving Japan forward, which I think sounds quite positive. And again, you've seen that reflected in share prices.
Yeah, but she does have some work to do. The yen, as I said earlier on, is battling a little bit at the moment, specifically against the US dollar. There has to be some sort of reform here.
Yeah, so look, I mean, if you look at sort of, again, there's probably a big difference between what politicians, plan to do and then the actual execution of that. I think she, again, if you look at the positive sides of what's happening currently, you are seeing, she's a big fan of, or has signaled her support for the Japanese-US alliance. So that could be quite positive, very pro-Taiwanese. So I think, if you have a look at the context of that, what's happening geopolitically, quite a lot to take in there. But again, from a spending perspective, very keen on big infrastructure spending in Japan. So certainly that could impact the yen. But again, numerous other factors as well. Very early days, but yeah, certainly something to keep an eye on.
Right. Also, something to keep an eye on is Vukile, a trading statement today. What are you seeing at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, it is just a trading statement for a couple of months, November, December. Again, Vukile has produced some really strong results. If you look at the last 12 months, low vacancies, positive rental reversions, and then going into December, November, December. And as you mentioned, those commuter segments doing really nicely, up 11%, which is nice to see. And then the value segment's up about 8%. But again, the sort of rural segment, which makes up about 60% of the portfolio, also coming in quite strong, somewhere between 3 and 4% increase in footfall, which is strong. And then the sort of Iberian segment of their business, obviously being Spain and Portugal. Portugal probably outperforming Spain there with really strong numbers. So again, plays into that thesis of strong retail sort of space or strong investments into the retail space in Portugal and Spain, which is working out quite nicely for them. So good to see.
Right, other trading statements as well. I think DRD was one that came out as well, yeah. Northern Platinum. I mean, these are no-brainers. Of course, they're doing really well because commodities are up.
Yeah, I think if you look at whether it's Northern or DRD Gold, I mean, the price of gold or precious metals has really driven their sales revenues, irrespective of what their volumes have done. So both of those, I think, Northern Platinum producing like 7 or 8% volume growth, not massive, but up 60% from a sales volume perspective or revenue perspective, which is significant, and even higher from a HEPS perspective. So that gap widening between, and then again, keeping their costs very low. So again, a no-brainer because you are seeing this, very strong tailwinds from strong rand, and then strong, commodity prices. So doing very well. But I think, again, the story around PGMs and gold miners has always been to, try and maintain this level. We know that these are very cyclical commodities. And again, what's important is to perhaps just keep an eye on that capex. We've seen a 75% increase in capex that they've signaled. So yeah, perhaps just something to keep an eye on for investors going forward. And again, these businesses aren't trading on very, very cheap multiples. So certainly something to be cautious of. It's going to take a lot for them to maintain the sort of price momentum that we are seeing in markets.
That's a very good point there, Carl. It really is. Right. What is your stock pick then?
My stock pick today is ShopRite. I've picked some of the retailers now for a while, whether it's been LVMH or the Foschini Group, and we've seen retailers come off quite significantly over the last 12 months. Probably fashion retailers a bit more than your grocery retailers, but our preference in the sector is going to be ShopRite. I mean, if you have a look from a scale perspective, absolutely dominant, and again, just driving innovation in the sector. Able to be a sort of a leader from a price perspective, and just continues to take and maintain its market share. So, this is a very dominant business with very strong margins that continue to improve. And again, you're not paying over the odds. I don't think you're probably paying 16, 17 times earnings, forward earnings for this business, which is probably in line with where you want to be. So again, a great business trading at a fair value, which I think is, looking very attractive at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a constant over the past few weeks. Carl, thank you so much. Do appreciate you taking the time this lunchtime. That was Carl Burgess from Nedbank Private Wealth.